Good afternoon, everyone. Again, my name is Frank Baca, Vice Chair of the Bernalillo County Commission. I'd like to call this May 12th, 2026 zoning meeting of the Bernalillo County Board of Commissioners to order. Chair Adrian Barboa is excused. Director Ham, question for you. Are there any changes to the agenda or updates on the case before us today?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, good afternoon. Nicholas Ham, Director of Planning and Development Services. Good to be with you all today. We do have a proposed hearing format for you all to consider, and Javier and Julian, if I might show them what's on the computer here. It's slightly modified from what we would consider our standard hearing format, though it does track with the same hearing format that the Board of County Commissioners utilized for the January proceeding for this same set of requests. In essence, it affords 10 minutes to each party in both of the appeals cases, and we are grouping those by party. So of note, on the screen, you'll see that the order of the cases is different from that on your agendas. Deliberately, because what we're doing, as I've said earlier, is we're grouping it by parties that submitted appeals. So what the department is proposing is that the Board of County Commissioners hear concurrently the appeal of the plan amendment and the special use permit for each party, following the hearing format that you see on the screen. And following getting through the 6 cases, if it is agreeable to the board, the staff would then propose having a public hearing for the legislative item associated with this request or this group of requests, which is the standalone case for the sector plan amendment related to the application for a special use permit. And it's at that time where if it is agreeable to the board, you would be able to convene a public hearing and allow public comment from general public, as opposed to those that submitted just an application for appeal. After that, the department would recommend that the board enter into deliberation or discussion and then make motions and take action as you see fit. And I'm happy to stand for questions.
Thank you. Mr. Ham, any questions among the board? Seeing none. Thank you, Mr. Ham.
And Mr. Chair, I'm sorry, if I might, if it pleases the board, a motion and a vote on the proposed hearing format would be beneficial.
Absolutely. I move to adopt the plan.
The hearing format.
We have a motion and a second to adopt the hearing format plan as presented by Mr. Ham. All in favor, please say aye or raise your hand. Approved unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Next, I'd like to move to approve the March 11th, 2026 zoning meeting minutes. Is there a second?
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the minutes of that meeting, please say aye or raise your hand. Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Approved unanimously. Thank you. All right. Now, we will proceed with a quasi-judicial process restricted to parameter set for staff and appellant presentations. This process does not permit public comment, and the new evidence permitted by a majority of vote of the board. Before we start with the staff presentation, Madam Clerk, would you please swear in all those giving testimony today?
Yes, Mr. Chair. All those providing testimony today, please stand up. Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give at this hearing shall be the truth and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury? Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. All righty, then I believe at this point in time we can begin with the staff presentation. We have allotted 6 minutes for that presentation, so if you please identify yourself and for the record and the public, and please proceed.
There we go. Thank you, Chair Baca, Commissioners. My name is Karen Iverson. I'm a planner with the Planning Department. The introduction and update that I'm going to provide you really applies to all of the cases. And after I speak, I'm going to hand it off to Director Ham and then Madam Manager, and then we'll introduce the first pair of appeals. So at the January 27, 2026 hearing, the BCC unanimously approved a motion for a 120-day continuance and a request for staff to report on a third-party analysis of the siting study, the transmission routing, and the cost of burying the transmission lines. I will let Director Ham and Madam Manager speak to the progress that we've made on that. But other things that have occurred, we did receive a memo from PNM regarding the actions that they have taken since the last BCC meeting. And that is included in the agenda packet. And accordingly, PNM completed an infrastructure feasibility assessment of 2 potential transmission corridors along Eubank and Tramway Boulevard associated with this substation project. And also between January 27 and April 17th, the Planning Department received an additional 330 public comments. 200 of those were from people we had not received comment from. All of those comments are included in the agenda packet. The overwhelming majority of commenters do not support the construction of an electrical substation at the proposed location, and the majority of comments also expressed opposition to the 115 kilovolt transmission lines along Tramway. Between April 18th and May 10th, we received an additional 24 comments, and I have those in a packet that if it is the wish of the commission, I'd like to hand those to you and enter those into the record.
Absolutely.
Okay. And I will just to summarize all of the public comments that we've received today, they total more than 1,380 comments from unique individual email addresses. So with that summary of the public comment we've received and the update from PNM, I'll hand it over to Director Ham.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just to give a summary of additional work that's been undertaken since the last hearing, board discussion towards the end of that proceeding directed county managers to develop a request for proposal for additional study of some of the elements of this application. That includes a need and capacity analysis, a siting study evaluation, an alternatives analysis, and an undergrounding and cost analysis for potential transmission lines associated with this facility. That request for proposal is currently active and posted on the county's website. There is a time and a cost associated with that, that study that would be the result of this request for proposal, and I will defer to Madam County Manager on some of those details.
Thank you, Director Ham. We, as we develop this set of RFPs to go forward, we learned that the result of that RFP would cost the county between $750,000 and $1 million to complete. In addition, we learned that it would take approximately 9 months for the completion of all of those studies. We did reach out to PNM to ask for their contribution in helping us to fund that. They declined that opportunity to contribute.
So with that background, I'd like to introduce the first pair of appeal cases. The appellant for this first set is Cadigan Law Firm PC, and he's an agent for several other individuals. And this is for items 4B, case COA 2026-004 / SPR 2025-006, and item 4C, COA 2026-005 / CSU 2025-009. And I believe Mr. Cadigan may be on the Zoom.
Mr. Cadigan, can you hear us?
I can hear you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can't see you, but I can hear you.
All right. I believe my camera is on, but I may be wrong. At any rate, Mr. Chairman, commissioners, I've already spoken on this appeal at length, so I won't burden you with any further repetition of our position, but I did want to make just a few points. First of all, as you know, this is a request for a zone change that will create a spot zone, a small island of industrial type zoning in a sea of residential neighborhoods. This type of zone change is disfavored by not only the county zoning ordinance, but also by state law. This zone change will not be compatible with the rural, low-density nature of the area. And perhaps most importantly, PNM has not shown, as it was their burden, that this facility in this location is more beneficial to the community compared to other locations. That is PNM's burden under the law and under the county's zoning regulations. In fact, the record shows that PNM's site selection study was deeply flawed. Among other things, it arbitrarily failed to consider available commercially zoned and industrially zoned sites that are further west, closer to the areas that are creating the need for additional power, and closer to commercial zoned areas rather than residential areas. This commission has recognized that the site selection performed by PNM was deeply flawed, and as a result, Commissioner Benson's motion to require an independent site selection analysis passed. Now, while Commissioner Benson's idea is a good one, we hear today that it will cost the taxpayers $750,000 to $1 million to do what PNM was supposed to do under zoning law and the county's zoning regulations. So for that reason, I would simply urge that this commission tonight grant the appeals, deny the sector plan amendment,
I think we lost you, Mr. Cadigan. I'm sure we lost you. Oh, there he is. There we are. Now we can see you.
All right, thank you, sorry. I would urge the commission, rather than going through the cost and time involved in a complicated site selection study, which PNM refuses to participate in financially, simply grant the appeals, deny the zone change, deny the sector plan amendment, and let PNM start over again. Let them do their job. Let them submit a properly justified application for a different site that explains why it is the best site for this facility. That is the simplest thing for this commission to do. It is what the law requires it do, and it is consistent with the prior litigation history in this case, in which the Second Judicial District Court has already held that a site very close to this site was not an appropriate site for this facility. So again, I would urge the commission to save the taxpayers $750,000 to $1 million and require PNM to do what they are supposed to do, which is to prove that this is the right place for this facility. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cadigan. All righty. PNM, I believe a representative would please come forward, identify yourselves, and you have 10 minutes.
Okay. All right, good afternoon, commissioners. My name is Lori Williams. I am a senior vice president at PNM. Thank you for having me today. I'm here to discuss the Northeast Heights Substation Project, which is a critical infrastructure initiative for this community, a community I live in. I want to be upfront with this commission. While we are sensitive to the concerns that have been raised, this is an area that is at a crisis point with respect to our ability to provide safe and reliable service to customers, and it has been for some time. The reliability risk is not only affecting this area directly, but negatively impacting surrounding communities as well. If there is one takeaway I want you to walk away with today, it's that the risk to this area continues to rise, and your action is essential to ensuring resolution. Next slide. Since the last meeting, we've continued to meet with a number of folks on all sides. Since I've stood before you in January, we've also provided additional information to various stakeholders, including this commission. I'm not going to read this particular slide with all the items, but I do want to emphasize the continued collaboration we've had with all of the parties. As a reminder, 100% of the studies that we had performed by an outside, globally recognized engineering and technical services firms, the exact firms that you are seeking for response in your RFP today. We did that purposely to provide some level of assurance, another layer of assurance to stakeholders in this process. So I will refute what Mr. Cadigan says. We have met our obligations. We have utilized outside firms to do all of this research. We have stamped professional engineers who have come forward from national engineering firms and performed all of this work. Next slide. I want to align really quickly on a couple of basics about substations. So substations should optimally be within about 2 miles or so of the customers that they serve. Our standard layout for a 115 kV substation is 4 acres, and it should be accessible with large equipment. We try to keep loadings at substations below about an 80% maximum. The purpose of that is we want additional capacity to exist to cover adjacent substation maintenance and outages. The associated transmission line that provides service to a new substation should have a clear, consistent 75-foot easement all the way from the connecting existing substation to its new location it plans to energize. And we try to spread substations evenly out over the service territory to ensure proper coverage for all customers. The overloaded substations that we are talking about today are on Eubank or east of Eubank. They are not west of Wyoming. Despite what you continue to hear, that is not accurate information. Feeder overloads are also largely concentrated out of those same substations. The answer in this case, I think, is straightforward. The solution should be located where the problems persist on the grid to ease the burden on the most at-risk critical infrastructure, which is in this area. Next slide. From a geographic perspective, we've got there we go. From a geographic perspective, this is a map of our existing transmission infrastructure around the area. You can see its normal layout is generally evenly distributed lines and substations close to customers. That is with the exception of this far Northeast Heights area where you can see a dearth of electric infrastructure. The 2 overloaded substations at both Hamilton and Tramway, which are noted in yellow above, are stretched to their limits today and lack excess or spare capacity to serve even more load, much less support each other in an emergency. Next slide. Regarding the site selection study, Burns & McDonnell, another third-party technical services company, conducted this siting study, which they do for many utilities across the United States. They evaluated 21 separate sites in the study. So again, I will refute Mr. Cadigan's assertion that this was somehow a shoddy job at siting. 21 separate sites in the area that meet the requirements were evaluated, including 2 brought to us by the stakeholders. We paid for and evaluated those sites as well. Through multi-phased analysis, using 27 separate criteria. I don't know how many more Mr. Cadigan wants us to add, but we used 27 separate criteria. The field was narrowed to 12 finalist sites. we had public meetings with the community, multiple public meetings, to help further narrow that list. Across all the ranking scenarios, the top sites consistently point to the same optimal area. Next slide. Regarding the separate engineering study performed again by another third-party firm, this time 1898 and Company, that study confirmed a key finding. There is no equivalent alternative to developing a new substation. No combination of upgrades, distributed resources, or demand management can fully address the overburdened substations serving this area and ensure long-term reliable service to this area. Next slide. The question of undergrounding transmission lines has come up. The reality is the undergrounding of transmission, especially 115 kV or above, is highly unusual. In this case, it would minimally cost $55 million to underground that line. That is based on the type of installation, and it could be a lot more. It's based on what we see, we would need to do both open trench and HDD, or horizontal directional drilling methods, both through this 2 miles of route, which should probably come in at greater than 55 million. The NMPRC, the New Mexico Public Regulation Commission, which we are obligated to bring our costs to and demonstrate prudence, is unlikely to approve such an exorbitant cost when it benefits such a small group of users and when equally reliable overhead alternatives exist at a fraction of the cost. In fact, that cost is about $4 million comparatively. I've got on the slide some costs per customer that we could propose. So the county can force undergrounding. County can force taxpayers to pay for that, spread the cost across all Bernalillo County taxpayers. We as PNM could also create a special assessment district and assess these customers directly for the cost differential. On the low end of that, that's about $5,500 a year on top of their existing electric bill, and that would be every household in this area for 7 straight years. Okay, next slide. I want to briefly address some inaccurate statements made to this body in the recent past. PNM seeks electric infrastructure additions like this exclusively to address reliability and public safety needs. Since the 2010 Bernalillo County Electric Facilities Plan update, it has included a substation location near Eubank and Paseo. That's 26 years. The substation has been sought for years. It clearly predates and is unrelated to any merger activity, despite suggestions to the contrary. PNM is a heavily regulated utility and consistently must demonstrate cost prudence to the NMPRC for all of our cost decisions. Not some of them, all of them. The proposed grading and drainage plan should actually improve neighborhood flooding risk. The special use permit, I heard spot zoning. Special use permit process is a standard. The adjacent fire station immediately next to the proposed location has such a special use permit. The area we are discussing today already houses numerous commercial and utility infrastructure types. If you drive through there, you see water tanks, you see cell phone towers, you see power lines, you see CVS's and Jiffy Lubes and all kinds of other infrastructure. And I live right off Tramway and I hear drag racing across there every single night. So the rural character, I would argue with, doesn't quite match when you drive through this area. Finally, all studies were performed by independent third parties.
I appreciate
And PNM has
making
engaged
comments. I'm sorry, Ms.
consistently.
Wentz, but please.
I'm used to it. PNM has engaged consistently with communities throughout this process. Reliability remains at risk until a solution is implemented. In closing, the data is clear. The studies are independent, and the need is urgent. I ask this body to approve PNM's application to protect grid reliability for not only our customers, but for your constituents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty. The appellant will have 3 minutes, I believe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Cadigan?
Yes, sir. Mr. Chair,
Yes, please, go.
this hearing is not about whether PNM needs additional facilities. It's also not about why PNM waited 26 years to address this problem that is now an apparent crisis. What this hearing is whether PNM has carried its burden to show that this is the right facility in the right place, and whether it harms the neighbors, and whether it is consistent with the rural nature of the area. There is no dispute that this area is zoned single-family, low-density residential rural by the county's planning documents. The outside selection firm that chose this site is hardly an independent entity, which is why I think Commissioner Benson's idea to find a truly independent vendor who's not on the payroll of PNM is at first glance a good one. In fact, that supposedly independent selection company was given a series of criteria, 27 of them, most of which were utterly irrelevant to the county's zoning plan, and many of which were applied using incorrect facts and assumptions that just didn't turn out to be true. Those 27 criteria included excluding any sites that were west of Wyoming or even close to Wyoming, and which are much closer to the area where the problem is being felt from the lack of capacity. Now, I can't argue with Ms. Williams. She's the PNM electricity expert and I'm not. But it does not take an electricity expert to know that the demand for electricity is coming from higher density residential development and commercial development, which is primarily, when we're looking at north of Paseo del Norte, primarily west of Louisiana in the La Cueva High School area. That's where townhomes, apartment complexes, shopping centers that use a large amount of power are being built. The neighborhood that PNM is asking to be burdened with this facility is entirely low density, about 1 house per acre residential with very low, comparatively low needs for power. It is simply not legal and not fair to make my clients, the neighbors in this area, pay for the needs of electricity further to the west. So, Mr. Chair, I would urge you to simply deny the zone change, grant the appeal, and deny the amendment to the sector plan. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Staff to close with 1 minute at a time.
Chair Baca, we have no further comment.
Thank you. All righty. Questions? Questions of the board or discussion at this point? I don't see any questions, comments at this point in time. So please proceed with the next component of our presentation.
Thank you, Chair. Moving on to the second set of appeal cases. The appellant in these cases is Sandia Heights Neighborhood Association, and this is for item 4A, case COA 2026-0003/SPR 2025-006, and item 4F, COA 2026-008/CSU 2025-009. Staff has no specific comments on this case, and we can move directly to the appellant.
Thank you. The appellant, please step forward, identify yourself, and proceed.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Baca and other commissioners. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to be here with you this afternoon. My name is Robin Dozier-Otten. As president of the Sandia Heights Homeowners Association Board of Directors, I want to emphasize an important consideration regarding PNM's proposed project. Sandia Heights residents recognize PNM's need to provide additional electric power to those portions of the northeastern Albuquerque which have experienced substantial growth and power demand over the past decade or more. However, the location of this growth and the need for new power does not lie within either Sandia Heights or North Albuquerque Acres, both of which experienced their peak demand growth many years ago. To provide more detailed information regarding the grounds of our appeal, let me introduce Keith Julian, coordinator of our technical working group for the PNM project. During his 50-year career as an earth and environmental scientist, Keith served as project manager or principal in charge for regulatory compliance on more than a dozen major regulatory compliance infrastructure projects involving construction of large substations and high voltage transmission lines, as well as providing testimony to state public regulatory commissions, as well as the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. We are very fortunate to have Keith leading the group of highly qualified volunteers who have worked tirelessly to explain our opposition to this proposed plan. Thank you. Keith?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My name is Keith Julian, a 30-year resident of Sandia Heights in Bernalillo County. The Sandia Heights Homeowners Association respectfully requests that you grant all 3 appeals of the Bernco Planning Commission's December 3rd recommendation to approve application for a sector plan amendment and special use permit. If accepted, the Planning Commission's recommendation would result in the construction of an extremely large electric substation, 66 million volt amperes, 3 times larger than the existing neighborhood substations, as well as several miles of 115,000 volt transmission lines through the heart of Sandia Heights and North Albuquerque Acres. This area of Bernalillo County has long since been built out and does not need the additional new electrical power capacity that PNM is proposing there. Sandia Heights Homeowners Association's appeal is based on the following issues and concerns. Number 1, PNM's application presents information that is somewhat misleading and misrepresents some key project details. 2, there were procedural errors by the Planning Commission during their approval recommendation process. 3, the application itself lacks required information and mandatory transmission line corridor studies required by the county's electric facility plan, making it incomplete. 4, the permit application and proposed sector plan amendment ignores the extent of existing rural land use zoning within the proposed project area and is inconsistent with the 45-year-old North Albuquerque Acres sector development plan. And 5, both the County Planning Commission and previous Board of County Commissioners denied a nearly identical permit application from PNM a few years ago for a site less than 600 yards west of the currently proposed site. This denial was also upheld in Second Judicial District Court. It is both procedurally and legally incorrect to ask for yet another redo on this project. We urge you to firmly reject the Planning Commission's recommendation for approval of PNM's project application. However, we also respectfully request that independent technical studies called for by your commission at the January 27th meeting be completed by a qualified third-party engineering consultant to correct deficiencies in the current permit application and to consider alternative locations for the proposed substation and transmission lines. These technical studies will include 1, a comprehensive evaluation of multiple locations for the proposed substations, focusing on verified areas of greatest need for additional electric power capacity. 2, a detailed analysis of potential transmission line routes that ensures compliance with the requirements of the county's adopted electrical facilities plan. 3, an assessment of the practicality and cost of placing transmission lines underground for the proposed substation. And 4, and most importantly, this was something you didn't even ask for, but it's been included in the RFP, a comprehensive community engagement program that includes input from the public as well as from outside experts regarding siting criteria and locational needs for additional new power. We understand that an RFP to select a qualified independent consultant to conduct this work was issued last week, and we urge the Commission now to approve issuing a binding contract once a firm has been selected. These independent analyses will provide a necessary objective technical foundation for your decision-making and will ensure that PNM's proposed project aligns with community needs, required environmental standards, and long-term infrastructure planning goals. Please take immediate and decisive action today on our 3 requests. Your leadership is crucial to protect our communities by ensuring that this and other proposed electric facility projects are approved only when all applicable county requirements and ordinances have been satisfied. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty, I believe we have opportunity to hear from PNM again. Is that correct? And that will be for.
Sure, I will make it very quick, though. Just to address a couple of things, the map that we showed earlier that showed where the facilities are, I will tell you the data demonstrates where the overloads are. The overloads are at both Hamilton and Tramway substations. Hamilton is on Eubank, Tramway is on Tramway. That is where we are seeing the loadings. The loadings out of Signetics, Wyoming substation, those are not overloaded today. So I think I just want to point out that we are presenting the data, not an opinion, not some supposition. This is objective data for meters and what we see out of the equipment. So just we'll close with, nothing is procedurally incorrect in this application. We've come forward multiple times. Again, I would love to not have to build a substation. I would love to not have to build a transmission line in this area, but I cannot assure continued reliable service to the area. I cannot assure continued protection of that equipment without some relief. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, sir. You have, I believe, 3 minutes for rebuttal.
So in rebuttal, Sandia Heights Homeowners Association recognizes PNM's need for additional electric power in the area of need, which is in the previously designated La Cueva service area, located 3 to 5 miles west of PNM's proposed North Albuquerque Acres substation site number 9. There are 3 existing substations, Hamilton, Wyoming, and Tramway, that already serve the Sandia Heights and North Albuquerque Acres area. Any new substations need to be located significantly to the west of that area because that is where the need and the growth has occurred. Thank you.
Thank you. All righty. Thank you for those comments. The staff, would you like to make any additional comment at this time?
Chair Baca, we do not have any further comment.
Thank you, Ms. Iverson. Then with the next segment of our meeting.
All right. Moving on to the third set of appeal cases. This is item 4D. Well, let me back up. So the appellant for these 2 cases is Mr. Robert Dale Morrison, and this is item 4D, COA 2026-006/SPR 2025-006. And COA 2026-007, CSU 2025-009, item 4E.
Mr. Morrison, I believe you have 7 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Robert Dale Morrison. I am an appellant in this matter. I've been fighting with PNM now for almost 7 years regarding the location of the substation, which is needed where it was originally set for, north of Paseo, west of Wyoming. That's where the need is. That's where their records would show the need is if they actually gave you the records. I'm really tired of having to listen to the nonsense that we've had to listen to all of this time. The county was also a successful appellant our successful appellee in the prior case. The county took the position that this was not an appropriate site. That is at Browning and Paseo. The current site is in identical zoning a quarter of a mile east of that site. It makes absolutely no sense that the first site was unacceptable and that this site would be acceptable. There are several reasons why I oppose the decision that's been made by the Planning Commission. First off, the process followed by the Planning Commission in its determination of whether to approve a zoning change is flawed. It does not provide the opponents with due process. The proceeding in this particular case was flawed. It did not provide the opponents with due process. P&M has not provided facts, it's provided conclusions. And those conclusions are based on specific instructions given by P&M to those consultants that prepared those reports. P&M has made material misrepresentations and has made material omissions in its presentation to the commission and to this commission, and it's happened again today. The county commission has already decided the issue as to whether an electric substation is appropriate in a rural residential area of the county that has identical zoning with this present site. The current application is barred by the legal doctrine of issue preclusion, collateral estoppel, and res judicata because the county, P&M, and I were all parties to that prior proceeding. The prior hearing was continued to give the parties a chance to work out some differences. I heard that we've been talked to. I don't think anybody's talked to anybody. I don't think P&M has done anything. They haven't communicated with me other than to say, we do not have to respond to your IPRA request because we're a private entity. The Public Service Company of New Mexico is a private entity that has no obligation to provide public records. That's nonsense. The Court of Appeals in New Mexico does not agree with that. P&M has violated existing state law by not responding to the IPRA request that I submitted to them to find out the actual facts regarding the usage and the number of customers and where the need really is. Now, if you have any specific question on any of those issues you would like for me to address, I can, but I'll otherwise go forward with additional information. What P&M gave you, or gave the Planning Commission, and what you have is a map with various ovals. And within those ovals are the equestrian center, 2 flood control dams, a large vacant area of land around where this site is located, a long stretch of Paseo del Norte, and all of the sites that they have considered are in the county. None are in the city. The city has more than 20 times the density of population of the county for that area. Where do you think the need is? I heard there are businesses in our area. That's nonsense. There's a dentist office, there's a school, there's some churches. Those are things that complied with the zoning. There's not a substation, and there's not a substation there because there are 11 substations that surround the perimeter of what is the real project area, which again, they're misleading you on what the project area is. That project area is much larger than those ovals. And they came up with the ovals just because they would fit nicely over the area where they want to build this project. The project is completely inappropriate for that site. In the area where they propose to put this substation, there are trails across the property that's used by the people who ride their horses from the equestrian center. It's where I've walked 3 different dogs over 22 years. It's not an area that has any industrial or commercial use, none. The fire station is there. It's been there for a long time. The dam is there. It's been there for a long time. The equestrian center is there. It's been there for a long time. They're taking not only the rights of the property owners, they're taking stuff from you too. That equestrian center, you're going to have people riding around an electric substation on their horses. You're completely destroying the effectiveness and the use of that particular property. There's also, I think, some other facilities there at the center that will become of no value. The problem is P&M didn't act. They didn't act appropriately. They now want to put the burden on the private property owners, and I am furious at having to deal with these characters over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Morrison. Okay, P&M representative, please proceed.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of responsive comments. There really is no ulterior motive to try to ruin this community with a substation. I live in this community. I promise that is the case. Every person in my family that lives in New Mexico lives in this area as well. I have no ulterior motive other than trying to do our job to serve reliable power to customers in this area where there is no infrastructure. From the data, again, the overloads are coming out of Hamilton and Tramway. They are not coming out of the other substations in terms of transformer loadings. To respond to Mr. Morrison's comment about stakeholder engagement, we have been engaged with stakeholders, frankly, for years and years. And in the most recent application, there has been extensive stakeholder outreach. It's noted in your packets and in the record very clearly. We've not made material omissions in this application. I raised my right hand, and I promise you there is nothing that we have left out that we're aware of that's in our data, in our studies, and in our efforts. I'm going to have our attorney, John Verhool, talk about the IPRA and the res judicata questions, but thank you very much.
Thank you. Sir, please identify your full name for the record.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. My name is John Verhuel. I'm an attorney with P&M. And as Ms. Williams indicated, I'm just going to address a couple of the legal arguments the appellant made in this case. The first was that this application should be precluded by, among other things, the doctrine of res judicata, which essentially means you've already made a decision, it's been fully adjudicated, you can't come back with the same thing again. Res judicata does not apply to administrative proceedings. This is a different application. It's a much more developed application. The record is complete with all the different stakeholder outreach and the different things we've addressed in order for this substation to actually fit in as well as it possibly can in this particular location. That's one. And I would add, of course, this commission, you have your own legal counsel. You don't need to be educated as to the legal ramifications of this from the appellant or from me. The second point the appellant brought up, we were indeed provided an IPRA request, and of course that stands for Inspection of Public Records Act, and P&M denied that request because P&M is not a public body as that term is defined in the statute. There are indeed several cases in New Mexico where the Court of Appeals has held that a private actor can be subject to IPRA. None of those are applicable to this situation. Those are scenarios, for example, where a private, I think
go ahead and finish your thought
Thank
there.
you. Those examples are, for example, where a private company was operating a commissary in a state-operated detention facility, or where a private company was operating a public access cable network on behalf of a city. That is very different than Public Service Company of New Mexico supplying power throughout New Mexico. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Morrison, 3 minutes, sir.
On the issue of res judicata, it does apply, but I also mentioned issue preclusion and collateral estoppel, which are two separate concepts that are directly on point. And because the issue has been resolved, that's almost identical, you don't need to resolve it again, except to say we're going to follow what the commission has done in the past, and we're going to comply with what the court found in its decision, a well-written 15-page decision that if you haven't read, it's in the package and you should read it. In terms of the communication from P&M and with me or with the other appellants, I've been told there wasn't any, and I certainly, other than receiving the letter saying we're not going to answer your legally sufficient IPRA request, if they answered that request, they would tell you from the bills that they send every month where their customers are, how much electricity they use. And from that, you can tell exactly where the substation is needed. As to the location upstream where we are, they have never mentioned that there's a gas generating station just across I-25, have they? They've never mentioned that as being available to provide electricity across I-25 into the area north of Paseo and west of Wyoming. And that's where the station should go. Our appeal should be granted. Their application should be denied. No zoning change should occur. P&M should be told to do it right. They claim to have spent $10 million so far in this process. How ridiculous is that? All they have to do is get the proper location and do it right. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All righty, we'll have opportunity for staff to make any final comments. Syverson, Mr. Ham.
Chair Baca, we have no comments.
All righty, thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion by the commission at this point in time? I see none. All righty, so now I believe we're concluded with that portion of the hearing, if we will, or of the presentation. Now we'll proceed to the public hearing. Is that correct, Ms.
That's
Iverson?
correct, Chair Baca. So this will be item 5A on the agenda. And we have a little outline of the hearing process for this as well. This is case SPR 2025-006. So even without these appeals, this project would have been elevated to the BCC for a public hearing due to the requirement that the North Albuquerque acres have a sector plan amendment to allow for the special use permit. So this section serves as the public hearing for that case, SPR 2025-006. That's all I have.
Thank you. So I believe we've already had the swearing in, I think, of everybody that intended to make public comments. So let me go ahead and just provide the general instructions at this point in time. I don't have to ask if we have people signed up, because I know we do. Each person has 1 minute, and neighborhood associations have 3 minutes. You'll be alerted about your remaining time. When your name is called, please make your way to the podium if you are speaking in person. Before making your statements, please state your name for the record. To maintain order and decorum and in the spirit of professionalism and respect for everyone present, speakers must adhere to the time limit. If the conduct of the presenter violates the rules, they may be subject to removal. And so do we have them signed up, Javier? Is that the way it's?
Yes, Mr. Chair.
Okay. And just a little note to those who are presenting, I know a lot of you tend to walk up there and you kind of looking at the microphone and you're kind of asking for, I would just, because that time starts to run once you get up there, so I would say just get up there and start speaking, so.
Mr. Chair, if I may, per the proposed outline, if we can start with, staff already did their 2-minute presentation,
Oh,
if we can
sorry,
move into
yes.
the 5 minutes.
I apologize, absolutely,
you.
yes. Applicant, Mr. Brito, right? Please state your full name for the record.
Mr. Vice Chair, Commissioners Russell Brito with PNM. Wanted to provide you a recap of our presentation from last time. If I can find. All right, again, we all know the location of the proposed special use permit application and sector plan amendment. There has been discussion about the area of risk, which is an area that's an increased risk of outages due to overloaded infrastructure in the area. There is an area of need, which is the area that is driving the load growth that is causing the capacity or overcapacity of the existing tramway and Hamilton substations. And because of the technical requirements for a substation, the yellow oval is where it is best located because, as Ms. Williams has described, it is close to where the load growth is occurring and where a potential transmission line access is available. It was also touched upon about how substations support each other in times of increased load demand and outages, and we want to keep the capacity at or under 80%, so there's 20% available for substations to support each other. It's already mentioned that the existing service areas of the substations have increased load growth, especially for tramway and Hamilton substations, where substations are operating at or above capacity. There is increased risks for outages or brownouts in these areas on the map. Not all coincidental, but these areas could see an increased risk for outages from now through 2031 because of the overloaded infrastructure at the edge of the area of need. The service area for the new substation would be this area in green. It includes neighborhoods that would be served, including Sandy Heights, North Albuquerque Acres in the unincorporated county areas, as well as areas within the city limits. Please keep in mind, there are not two separate grids, one for the city, one for the county. There's one cohesive regional grid. Electrons don't care about jurisdictional boundaries. They go where the load demand is. Once a substation is developed, the risk decreases dramatically and operating capacities go below 80% for all substations in the area, allowing them to provide support for each other in terms of increased load demand or outages. We've already seen the photo simulations of the substation surrounded by a 12-foot tall, 14-foot tall security wall, which was increased 2 feet above what is normally built in response to requests from nearby neighbors to hide the equipment more. There will be landscape around the perimeter of the site. There's a lot of discussion about the transmission line routing. Here's some images of if it went down Eubank and up Paseo. There are existing 90-foot tall, 115 kV transmission lines on Tramway, essentially south of Academy, where that Tramway substation is. Originally, the Tramway route would go around the hard corner of Tramway and Paseo, but that was altered to have it go behind the little shopping center that's at Tramway and Paseo to minimize the visual impact. All of the applications have met with staff recommendations of approval because all criteria are met. And the same with the County Planning Commission. They agreed that all of the criteria have been met. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All righty, now I believe we proceed to public comments, and I believe that people have signed in at some point, and Javier will call the names. And are you going to ask for 2 or 3 people to come up at one time, and is that way we can move fairly quickly? All right, please proceed. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today we have a total of 34 speakers with 6 speakers appearing remotely. Please line up at the podium when your name is called and state your name for the record. First speaker will be Mark Humphrey, followed by David Neal, followed by Peggy Valencia.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, thank you for giving us an opportunity to speak what we think is a very important matter before us. You're being distributed a heat map, if you will, of the areas around Sandia Heights and North Albuquerque Acres, which demonstrates that there's a huge fire risk that PNM refuses to acknowledge in our neighborhoods. Sandia Heights, I'm chairman of the task force for Sandia Heights, so I'm familiar with their proposal. But as you can see, all the red kind of avoids everything in the middle. And the only fire areas are in North Albuquerque Acres and Sandia Heights. I hesitate to turn the page, but I will. This is what's happened in some of the other major fires. First, the Marshall Fire in Colorado, then the fire in Lahaina, and most recently Palisades. I bet none of the groups would ever say, you know, we think there might be a risk here, but we're going to take it anyway. These are existential risks to the communities that we represent. I move that you seek that sense of not making a decision that could add risk. No one can say it's 100% guaranteed. It could add risk to an already volatile part of the community, Sandia Heights and North Albuquerque Acres. Thank you.
If you are part of a neighborhood association, please state that prior to speaking. David Neal, followed by Peggy Valencia, followed by Richard Megginson. Peggy Valencia, followed by Richard Megginson, followed by Deborah Bryant.
Good afternoon, Vice Chair Baca and Commissioners. I'm Peggy Valencia. I represent North Albuquerque Acres Community Association. Thank you for your service in allowing me to speak. I'm speaking on behalf of the Community Association Board. Since November of 2024, after PNM's open house, our board, along with trusted neighborhood engineers, met a minimum of 18 times in person, phone, email, held community meetings, and discussed and informed on this proposed substation. Our neighborhood engineering advisors are professional, independent electrical and energy engineers with more than 30 years of experience in electrical, power generation, distribution, complex system development, and evaluation. They acted as a technical conduit between our community and PNM. With signed NDAs, PNM allowed them to independently review the private data for justification for a substation, ensure all alternatives were evaluated, and assess the site selection process for fairness and reasonability. June of 2025, we were informed P&M selected substation site. Our board and these advisors mutually agreed that this project was essential and likely to happen even if we didn't want it in our neighborhood. As written in our previously submitted letters, and again unanimously reaffirmed just last week on May 6th, our stance has not changed. The transmission route placement is a critical component of the substation project. Our primary concern with hosting a substation in our neighborhood is the possibility of a transmission route to be located along Eubank. A transmission route along Eubank would bring transmission EMF exposure risk for young children attending Sandia Presbyterian Preschool, Grace Lutheran's Little Lambs Preschool, in addition to the facility-bound elderly and infirmed residents at Murata. These populations are susceptible to the unknown health risks, leukemias and other cancers associated with transmission line EMS. It should require a special consideration in land use planning decision according to the county's EFP guidelines. Simply, a transmission route along Eubank where there's no precedence of transmission lines could endanger the health of our community's most vulnerable. In that case, we would have to oppose hosting the substation. Therefore, we respectfully request the Board of Commissioners exercise land use authority by including the essential condition of the substation approval, the location of the transmission line route, not along Eubank. It's imperative to ensure that the advantage of reliable energy and the proposed substation do not come at the expense of potential health risks to the most valuable members of our community. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you.
Richard Megginson, followed by Deborah Bryant, followed by Margie Marley.
Chairman, Commissioners, thank you. I live in North Albuquerque Acres. I've been following this development since 2018. I don't really want to have a substation in my neighborhood close to my house. I don't want to have transmission lines, but I have seen the data and I've worked with our community volunteers, as Ms. Valencia said. I trust their assessment. I trust that we do need power in our area. I don't want to have to go without water as my power is provided by electrical well pump. I don't want to go without any medical devices that I might need. I don't want to go without air conditioning in the summer. So I reluctantly want to have this. I would only hope that the commissioners take into consideration with the route of the transmission line, the sensitive receptor populations that lie along the proposed routes. Thank you.
Deborah Bryant, followed by Margie Marley, followed by Simon Hickey.
Hi, thank you for your time. My name is Deborah Bryant, and just to bring some background, because it'll be relevant to my comments, I have worked in the oil industry as a project manager and project engineer 35 years and retired a couple of years, actually 4 years ago now, and moved back here. One thing I notice about the P&M projects, the communication with local people, is that there's no compromise, there's no ability to listen. I would actually say it's been somewhat veiled threats, as they did today, that any increased cost would be borne by people in the area. That was done at the first community meeting I attended, and it's also been said here more than once. At the community meeting, it was actually said that increased costs would be borne specifically by people in the tramway area. So that's completely unfair. Further, there hasn't been good, I'm almost done, analysis in the area of fire risk and undergrounding. Arizona has managed to underground projects twice as big, 230 kilovolts, for a cost no more than 3 times as much as the above ground cost. That data is available on the Arizona State websites. There's no reason P&M couldn't do better in their cost estimating, because if the lines are underground, all of the EMF complaints go away. The fire risk goes down to a very small amount. Thank you.
Margie Marley, followed by Simon Hickey, followed by Art Morganti.
Mr. Chair, point of order. I just wanted to implore you and the audience for decorum. You know, I really don't think it's appropriate to have people applauding and that kind of thing. I realize everybody's very passionate and, you know, things, you like what someone's saying or don't like what someone else is saying. There's booing, there's clapping. I just really think that that's inappropriate and we shouldn't be doing that.
Thank you, Commissioner Oliver. I totally concur with that. Yes, please proceed.
Thank
One
you.
minute.
PNM has previously stated the demand for electricity has moved to the east of the original area of concern, which was between San Pedro and Wyoming along Paseo del Norte. Yes, it is obvious electricity demand has moved to the east of Wyoming. In recent years, Paseo between Barstow and Ventura to Holbrook has been densely developed. This increased need for electricity remains west of Eubank. So, for example, sites 4 and 5 at Paseo and Eubank should be reevaluated for the substation, as they are some of the few remaining vacant lots closest to the increased power demand west of Eubank. Site 4 is for sale and could be purchased before it is developed by others. And Presbyterian Healthcare may now be willing to sell Site 5. Lastly, totally unrelated, please do not build power lines along the scenic recreation path on Tramway. This path is enjoyed by our entire community and visitors.
Simon Hickey, followed by Art Morganti, followed by Kristen Ackerson.
Chairman, Commissioners, my name is Simon Hickey. I live in North Albuquerque Acres. The size of the PNM substation development is not getting the attention that it warrants. The application is for a 66 MVA substation. The other 3 closest substations are only 22 MVA each. So this substation has a capacity of the 3 others combined. As I understand, on the footprint, the walled-in footprint that we saw the pretty pictures of, alone will be around 4 to 6 times the size of the other substations. This is a big project and on a completely different scale to the other substations. So, Commissioners, when you are considering whether to approve PNM's application for a zoning change, please do not overlook the size of this project. Does an industrial project of this size belong in a residential rural neighbourhood? Thank you.
Art Morganti, followed by Kristen Ackerson, followed by Charles Mers.
My name is Art Morganti. I've lived in Albuquerque since 1969. You know, I never get tired of looking over at the unobstructed views of the mountains. Albuquerque is ranked by many publications as having one of the best city backdrops, and that needs to be protected. Other cities do it. Santa Fe is a great example. Their development plan says that utilities must be screened, buried, or routed to avoid the visual prominence. There are local protections as well. The city of Albuquerque has VPO's visual protection overlays. One of them is Coors Boulevard. You can't block the view of the mountains from Coors Boulevard, a section of it. Albuquerque Open Space has protections. Cibola National Forest, Sandia Wilderness. So all these places have protections, and everyone agrees that it needs to be protected, except for PNM. In PNM's siting documents, they state that there are no special resource factors that would be affected. There's no viewshed analysis is required for their project. Yet, the majority of people that live in the area or visit the area or drive on tramway, that's 35,000 cars a day, or use the tramway recreational path, they all disagree with PNM, and we're relying on you to protect us from the corporate mentality and save our sand dunes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Kristen Ackerson, followed by Charles Mers, followed by John Pierce, followed by Terry Pierce.
Let's gauge opposition to this project. Will the assembled please stand if you're in opposition to the proposed PNM substation and power lines? All the neighbors rise up. Thank you. Please remain standing while I pull a few more things. Raise your hand in solidarity with the 2021 Bernalillo County Planning Commission denial of a proposed Paseo substation. One planning commissioner called monstrous. Thank you. Raise your hand in solidarity with the 2021 Bernalillo County Commission denial of the same proposed Paseo substation, cited only 500 yards from the current proposal. Thank you. Raise your hand in solidarity with the 2023 Second District Court decision to deny the PNM ability Then and now to site this substation in our neighborhoods and miles from the explosive growth in commercial properties where the need for new electricity is the greatest.
Thank you. Thank you. Next speaker. Next speaker.
Charles Mers, followed by John Pierce, followed by Terry Pierce.
Yeah, I'm a resident of Sandia Heights. Since it seems to be centering around money, they talked about 55 million for the buried lines. I had testified at another hearing about the impact on real estate, and that studies show 5 to 10% negative impact on properties. That where properties can see the power lines, which is a lot of the homes in the area. I had put out an $88 million figure on that at the low end of the range. And I want to also note that that does not include, that's just Sandia Heights, not other homes. Also, there could be an impact on your tax revenue, because I would imagine if you put the towers up, everyone here is going to expect a reduction in their assessments to counter that effect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
John Pierce, followed by Terry Pierce, followed by Paul Losey.
Chair, Commissioners, thank you for hearing me. My name is John Pierce. I'm North Albuquerque Acres for 38 years. I'm a retired builder and a 35-year real estate broker. On April 13th, I submitted a document that has exhibits into the public record regarding methodology, land use compatibility, and alternative site concerns. My submission raises concerns that the methodology used understates surrounding residential land by relying primarily on existing structures with short-range buffers rather than the broader land use pattern the SDP and comprehensive plan were designed to protect. The protections established for the Paseo corridor were created through land use planning, not through building-only analysis. Because these protections apply to the land itself, a structure-based methodology cannot fully evaluate the conditions these plans were intended to protect in a large residential corridor. In addition, PNM repeatedly characterized the Site 9 as the preferred or only viable location, yet neither the public nor the BOCC appears to have been provided with meaningful comparative analysis for alternative sites, less conflicting land use environments west of the Eubank. I respectfully urge the Commission to deny both. In this, you will see I did neighborhood growth. It is less than 1% per year for the last 4 years.
Thank you, sir.
And it's very interesting.
Thank you.
Terry Pierce, followed by Paul Losey, followed by Nancy Galloway.
Before we get started, I think there's a point, Mr. Hammond.
Mr. Chair, thank you. Just to address, you all have been handed some information from the public as they've spoken. It would be helpful if we could get clarity from the board if you would like those to be included in the record.
Okay, that refers to all the different documents we've been handed, which is the heat map and this site analysis growth, and is that it? Is there a third one? I think it was just those two.
My record is, my document is in the record.
Okay. Okay. Any objections to those documents been handed as being part of the record? Okay. See no objections, we'll note that. Yes. Please proceed.
Hi, thank you. My name is Terry Pierce. In regards to the power lines that are on Tramway have been there for decades, and they are, let's face it, a grotesque mistake. To continue the power lines on Tramway would just be continuing a huge mistake. Just because it's precedence doesn't mean it's right. I'm hoping that the county adopted protections for the North Albuquerque Acres still have meaning when a project of this scale is proposed within a protected residential corridor. This isn't a small zoning issue. It's a large regional substation that can simply not be undone once it's established. It will permanently scar the area that many call home. Many residents who choose to live in this community because of the protections that are established through the SDP and the comprehensive plan. Many people who have lived here for generations consider the area sacred. Let's not put power lines in front of the Sandia Heights. After months of hearings and appeals, Thank you.
Paul Losey, followed by Nancy Galloway, followed by Marina Tiano.
Thank you, Commissioners. I'm Paul Losey. I'm the owner of Covenant School Preschool Daycare right on Paseo. As we have been through this whole process, Covenant Schools is consistent with reminding you that the principle of prudent avoidance of sensitive populations, especially young children, needs to be considered. This means placing the transmission power lines near the location, like our daycare center, is an option that should be considered in relationship to those children that are in that center. Thank you very much.
Nancy Galloway, followed by Marina Tiano, followed by Eileen Brinkerhoff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I'm Nancy Galloway. I've lived in Sandia Heights for over 25 years, and I've seen where the rapid growth has happened, miles to the west of us, where I understand P&M originally planned to site this project years ago, and where housing and commercial development continue to expand every year. Sandia Heights and North Albuquerque Acres are already largely built out. These are established semi-rural residential communities. Families invested here because they trusted the protections of the sector development plan. Now P&M is asking you to change those rules so it can place a massive 66 MVA industrial substation in the middle of these communities, a substation more than 3 times the size of the others in the Northeast Heights and located far from the fastest growth and demand. Residents should not lose longstanding protections simply because it's cheaper or easier for a utility company to build here instead of where the growth truly is. Please protect the integrity of the sector plan and grant the 3 appeals. Deny this rezoning request.
Thank you.
Marina Tiano, followed by Eileen Brinkerhoff, followed by Tiani Johns.
My name is Marina Tiano. I wanted to bring up the fact that this power station is massive and that when this project, if it goes through as it is currently structured, would have no restrictions on further expansion. That would include the power lines as well as the substation. My property, so this affects me personally, is less than 40 feet away from those power lines. There are EMF transmissions that are potential health risks. There's a risk of lack of egress in the event of a fire. And it looks to me as if those particular issues were not addressed in the studies, other than to point out that the McDonald study shows that it is an inappropriate location for those power lines. But the fact that there's no restrictions and that we are giving it a blank check to P&M at what this project is wrong. Thank you.
Eileen Brinkerhoff, followed by Tanae Johns, followed by Lynn Meyer.
Good afternoon, Eileen Brinkerhoff. I live in Sandia Heights. I'm here to address my concerns regarding the tower placement on Tramway. I don't want to have happening to Tramway Boulevard the same thing that is happening, particularly in our nation's capital, where buildings are being destroyed overnight with little or no forewarning or approval. I don't want to wake up one morning and suddenly have towers appearing on Tramway Boulevard. I'm afraid that that is going to happen. That is my fear, that this is a done deal and that a lot of this maybe isn't even going to be helping. The Tramway Trail is used 7 days a week, probably 365 days a year, with walkers and cyclists and families with strollers and dog walkers, not to mention all of the families that live right there. These towers are going to affect many more people if they go on Tramway Boulevard versus other options such as Eubank. And lastly, the Sandia Mountains are one of the jewels of Albuquerque. Thousands of residents and tourists use this street. Imagine having to look at the mountains through these towers. Please don't ruin one of Albuquerque's jewels. Thank you.
Tanae Johns, followed by Lynn Meyer, followed by Greg L. Apologies as we were unable to determine the last name for Greg.
Good afternoon. My name's Tyne Johns, and I live in the Quail Ridge with my 4-year-old little girl. My parents live in the same neighborhood and live right along the east side of Tramway where the proposed transmission lines would be run. My mom takes care of my little girl every day while I'm at work. My biggest concern is health related for all of us who live near the proposed transmission lines, specifically the EMFs. And like other types of radiation exposure, to limit the dose you receive, you would want to both increase the distance between yourself and the source, and limit the time spent around the source. Neither of those is possible for the households that live right along the east side of Tramway. I have a PhD in chemical engineering, and at work we make data-driven decisions on a regular basis. I don't deny that there's a lack of quantitative EMR and EMF data regarding its implications for human safety, but please remember, a lack of data should never be assumed to mean safety. Until the health studies are performed and the data are gathered, it would be irresponsible and unethical to run these transmission lines along Tramway and potentially place the residents in danger. We understand the energy need is real, but our basic human need of safety is every bit as critical. Thank you.
Lynn Meyer, followed by Greg L., followed by Jim Griswold.
Hello, thank you, everyone. I appreciate that I have the opportunity to come here and speak for the animals. This is a fire hazard. I'm very close to Tramway. I really believe that there is another alternative for the P&M. A lot of us did not get notices for some of the information, and we're just coming on board now. And being a fire victim somewhere else, I know that there are embers. If there's a big wind and electrical fire is going on, and there's above ground electrical utilities above ground, they're going to fly right into where the animals live, and the deer and the coyotes and all of the birds and other animals and the rabbits. But it's just mind-boggling to me that anybody could think this is logical to go into an area where there's wildlife up to the Sandia Mountains. Thank you.
Greg L., followed by Jim Griswold, followed by Waylon Adams.
Good afternoon. My name is Greg LaBarrette. I'm a real estate broker in Albuquerque for 40 years and a resident of Sandia Heights for 20. About a year ago, I sold a listing of mine that backed up to the open space or the National Forest, and the buyer's insurance company denied insurance for the house because of fire danger. I keep hearing fire danger, all these issues with fire, and it just seems that this would not be a good thing too. And we might have our insurance rates increased or denied, like this person. Thank you.
Jim Griswold, followed by Waylon Adams, followed by Warren Bowers.
Excuse me, Vice Chair, Commissioners, my name is Jim Griswold. I'm a soon-to-be retired physicist, and for 31 years I've lived in Willow Bend subdivision, right on the west side of Tramway, within about 150 feet of the proposed lines. And you're hearing it from a lot of people. I have to rehash it because I only got a minute anyway. For economic reasons, for health and safety reasons, for aesthetic reasons, this is just a bad idea.
Waylon Adams, followed by Warren Bowers, followed by Cooch Jacobles.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity. I'm Waylon Adams. I live in North Albuquerque Acres. As part of my retirement, I've built up a solar business, and I'm involved with P&M quite a bit in that area. And I can tell you that I've been affected by lack of infrastructure and so forth in the North Albuquerque and Sandia Heights area. So as everybody said, we need some infrastructure put there and so forth. And so I support what P&M's doing to improve our infrastructure. Thank you.
Warren Bowers, followed by Cooch Jacobles, followed by Carol Hickey.
Thank you, Commission. My name is Warren Bowers. I live in Sandia Heights. I would respectfully request that the Commission take into consideration that it appears that the majority, keyword majority, of the parties that desire placement of the structures in question do not live in the affected areas, nor would they be affected by any negative outcomes of that placement. We don't deny that there's a need. There are other options, however, to accomplish the desired results with much less impact upon the people who actually live in the area. Please place the structures and related transmission lines where the demand is. Thank you very much.
Coots Jacobles, followed by Carol Hickey, followed by William Quadros.
Good afternoon. Number one, before I start, I think this man's name is Mr. Brito from PNM. Was I correct? Okay. He showed a map this afternoon that I had not seen before, and I'm really concerned about it. I have some other comments, but he showed the map where they were going to take the whole transmission line from the corner of the bridge at San Bernardino and Tramway. That's where Little Cloud Park is. And I had understood that it had been moved from Little Cloud Park because of the number of kids that are there, the number of little children that come with their parents. I am really upset because I've lived in Sandia Heights for 35 years. That Little Cloud Park was saved by a brother of mine that was on the commission that felt that it was something that AMAFCA gave us land. Also, no one's mentioned AMAFCA. Right along that line is AMAFCA, a big, huge AMAFCA water spill. And no one's even mentioned that. They're going to put it right next to that. And before I leave, because I'm out of time, they talk about postcards and information being sent to us. I went to one meeting that was by the association. There was 2 postcards, one at the beginning and then one after the last meeting. That's all that PNM has done to my family.
Carol Hickey, followed by William Quadros, followed by Corey Benjamin, followed by Charles Bergman.
Good afternoon, Chair and other commissioners. Thank you so much for this time. I'm Carol Hickey, and I'm a resident of North Albuquerque Acres for more than 2 decades. The Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Comprehensive Plan establishes a shared vision goal to preserve the character of rural areas and single-family neighborhoods. PNM's application is in direct conflict with this vision. It also conflicts with the comprehensive plan's rural area goals, the community identity goals, the developed landscape goals, in addition to the numerous conflicts with North Albuquerque Acres Sector Plan that have already been described at this meeting as well as prior other meetings. A substation application should not override all other zoning and planning objectives that have carefully been established by the county and the city. If approved, PNM's application risks creating a troubling precedent. If the county grants amendments to accommodate this project, despite these conflicts, what protection will remain for other neighborhoods that rely on their own sector development plans and long-term community protections? Thank you.
William Quadros, followed by Corey Benjamin, followed by Charles Bergman.
Dear Commissioners, this is William Quadros. We own 2 lots adjacent to the proposed substation, and PNM has been misleading you guys, so much. Even I took a picture of Mrs. Williams, in their final slide, it says, proposed grading and drainage plan decreases neighborhood area flood risk. There is a huge dam, and I've been working with the planning department from last 13 years to build our house, and they said it's fine, there is a dam, don't worry about the flooding. But the problem is the entire Palomas Road in that rural area is unbuilt. I can't go to my house or my lot because the entire Palomas Road is unbuilt. And PNM substation is building such a huge facility with, everything. If there is any fire from they have only one entrance, right, in their design, only from the north. But they're not building the entire Palomas Road. If there is any fire or anything, there is no other entry point. I'm a scientist, I work at Sandia Labs, and this is insane. Thank you.
Corey Benjamin, followed by Charles Bergman.
Is it possible to put a picture? Maybe. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and Commissioners. My family has lived in North Albuquerque Acres for 8 years. One of these things is not like the other. Please stop trying to put an industrial complex in our neighborhood. PNM's unwillingness to help fund further research speaks volumes. It's almost like they don't care. As kids, we watched cartoons in which big, bad, greedy companies were trying to move into quaint, beautiful neighborhoods, trying to squash the little guy. Welcome to the future. Hi from the little guys. Please don't be the bad guys. Please don't hurt our neighborhood, our homes, our lives, our kids, our pets, our wildlife. The fire danger is very real, and for our community and for our entire city. PNM, spend the extra money. Build it right where it belongs or don't build it at all. There are other places. You don't belong here among neighbors. You are a neighbor. You should know better. Come on. Families belong with families. Power stations belong with other industrial facilities. Thank you.
Thank you.
Charles Bergman.
Thank you, Commissioners. My name is Charlie Bergman, and I live in Sandia Heights. Today, we heard multiple times from PNM that the Burns and McConnell study was data-driven. Yes, it was. But in January, we heard multiple examples of suspect data. And at the January meeting, it was recommended that we do a series of new studies to ensure that the data was accurate. At the opening of today's meeting, we heard that the bill for those new studies was $750,000. The PNM refused to foot the bill. PNM's owner is TXNM, and its 2025 revenues were $2.17 billion. It leaves me speechless that PNM will not do the obvious and do new studies to determine an objective answer. The only question is, what do you have to fear?
Good job, Charlie.
We will now move on to our speakers appearing remotely. Eileen Caras.
Hello, my name's Eileen Karras. Thank you so much to the commissioners for listening to the people. All of the appellants and neighborhood homeowners are working together on a technical working group that would like to find an equitable location for the substation. The original siting study included 21 sites and did not include a number of other viable alternatives. The substation needs to be where the power is needed. That is not Site 9. I would also like to add that there are 38 homes and sensitive receptors within 100 feet, some as close as 50 feet from where the towers along Tramway are planned. There are many children and elderly living in those homes. Please uphold the 3 appeals and the sector plan or deny PNM's application. Thank you.
Paul Caras.
This is Paul Karras. I'm a resident of Sandia Heights. I just wanted to express my appreciation to the commissioners for your thoughtful deliberations on January 27th. You heard the information presented by PNM and by the community, and you recognized that there were problems with the application as it stood. You required some additional studies into the area of need, a completion of a substation siting study, which was incomplete in the application, and the completion of a transmission corridor study. These studies could be accomplished through the RFP that the county has already issued at taxpayer expense, or they could be accomplished by upholding or granting the appeals, denying PNM's application, and sending them back to submit the permit correctly with the appropriate data and reports presented. Thank you.
Patricia Arnell.
Yes, this is Patricia Armel. My husband and I are residents of Sandia Heights and members of the Sandia Heights Homeowners Association. This area of the county must be prepared for the increasing demand for electrical power. The current substations that supply our power are at or over capacity. Are any of you, whether it's commissioners or residents of this area, willing to wait until there are power brownouts or outages to approve a new substation? If so, then there will be a wait of 1 to 2 years for that substation to come online. Is that what you want? Mr. Benson, the service area for this proposed substation extends west beyond North Albuquerque acres and Sandia Heights and is all in your district. You have a responsibility to all your constituents. Maybe they all want to have reliable power. To the other commissioners, how will the lack of this substation affect power reliability in your district when there is great demand. Let's not kick this can down the road again. We urge you to approve the permits needed for this proposed substation. Thank you.
William Bruno.
Hello. Yes, I'm a PhD physicist. I was a biophysicist at Los Alamos for over 20 years. I want to speak to the EMF concerns that have been raised. I think they're very real. And a paper just came out this year showing a 50% increase in Alzheimer's of people who are exposed to, for each 10 milligauss of magnetic field that they're exposed to. So a big power line like this would cause exposures probably out to about 150 feet. I don't know the details of this power line, but there are things that could be done. Undergrounding it certainly would solve the problem. It's not just Alzheimer's, by the way, it's leukemia, insomnia, and cancer have all been shown. There was a cancer cluster in Florida called the Acreage, where they had open space with a giant power line on top. Apart from undergrounding, they could also, PNM could switch most of its grid to delta transformer configurations instead of Y power, and that would reduce the ground currents and keep the magnetic fields more confined to the wires. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This concludes our public comment.
Alrighty. I would thank you, everybody, for appearing today and speaking and presenting. And we certainly understand the difficult issues and decisions ahead. And I just want to thank you all for participating in this process. I'd like to open it up at this time for discussions, comments.
Mr. Chair, just a reminder of our proposed format. There is a time an allowed time for P&M, and then there is a brief staff closure.
Yes. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, it also appears we have an additional member of the public that would like to speak, if it pleases the board.
Is this the one individual for 1 minute? Yeah. Okay.
Okay, hopefully it's good then. I'm Leandra Schuler, a resident of Sandia Heights. I am worried about the potential for negative effects on my children's health from the towers in this proposal. The USDA recommends at least 150 feet distance to high voltage towers for longer term exposure. In this proposal, local parks and over 1 mile of the tramway walking path used by residents with children for hours every day would be right next to these towers. On top of that, 38 homes on the proposed tramway path would be within 50 feet, which is much closer than the USDA recommends. PNM stated that the potential for adverse health effects was a prime concern when they switched from the Eubank route. However, in that instance, all sensitive areas were outside the 150 feet recommendation. I strongly believe that there should be no project approval without a thorough study done to ensure that this path is safe for those of us who will regularly end up near those towers. Thank you.
Alrighty, so I apologize earlier, so I think I jumped ahead. So I think at this point in time, the applicant would have 3 minutes to make final comments. I'm sorry.
We have 15 total. All right, thank you very much, Commission. I appreciate the time to speak to you today. I appreciate the time that has been spent on this project by everybody involved. We really are seeking to try to do the right thing by this community. I will continue to commit to trying to bring reliable power to the area. You have a big decision to make today, but I hope we have put enough information in front of you so you can make the right decision for the community, and just appreciate everyone's input and participation with us in this process. Regarding the studies, because we have already, the last time around when we first applied for this years and years ago, we had done our own studies. This time around, we made sure that we used those third-party technical services and engineering firms to try to bring some independence to these processes. That really was the goal of those. So to pay for them again felt like, and I think Nick and others were planning to send that RFP to the same people that we have utilized for these studies. So it felt like it would be duplicative. And I think one of the big points that was made by stakeholders previously was looking to remove PNM from that process entirely and ensure that the Bernalillo County Commission was pursuing that independently. So additionally, getting us involved felt like it would be another potentially eroding, a trust eroding approach. So again, just want to thank you all for the tough decision I know you have in front of you. We will continue to endeavor to try to bring reliable service, resolve the overload issues as best we can, continue to work with parties to try to get to an agreeable solution, and just thank you for your time.
Thank you. Just the final comments by staff. Ms. Iverson.
Thank you, Chair Baca. We have no comments other than to help support you through whatever course of action you choose to take.
Thank you. All righty. Now I think we're concluded with the public hearing. And, comments, discussion, motions, whatever the case may be. Pleasure of the question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's been a lot of data, and thank you to all the public comment today. Thank you to PNM for the data you presented. You know, as the representative for this district, District 4, as well as the subset of the district of North Albuquerque Acres and Sandia Heights, I continue to see the need for electricity in this area, but I continue to not see the demand created by this community. As a resident myself in the area, I see all the development happening west of Holbrook, if it's north of Paseo. Not saying that Sandia Heights does not need electricity. That is continuing to be demanded by west of Holbrook, but that's where I see the demand created, or south of Academy. So given that, Mr. Chair, I move to grant the appeals and deny this placement and leave it to the will of the commission. Thank you.
I'll second that.
Okay. There's a motion and a second. Further discussion? Yes, Commissioner Hall. I'm going to just step out 1 second just for the audience purpose. I'm going to be able to hear everything that's said. And
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I understand why the maker of the motion, Commissioner Benson, is wanting to move this direction. And I'm really conflicted on, how I feel about this, because as I said last time, there are really serious energy problems and distribution problems here that I see. I think that map that PNM showed, showing all those potential locations and where the current substations are and where they currently are not, it makes a lot of sense to me. And I know that we're talking about where the growth is and all that, but the bottom line is, that area has grown a lot. I don't know how much it's still growing and will in the next 10 years, but there didn't used to be much there, and now there's a lot. And so I understand why PNM is coming forward with this plan, and I think, with the data they're presenting about the loading on those other 2 substations, we could have this whole group of folks in here in another few years, or who knows, another few months, very upset about, being out of power for a long period of time if something catastrophic was to happen to one of those substations or both of them or just something in that area. So, I do think that's a real problem, and homes in this area compared to homes in my area, let's say, are generally a lot larger, probably have a lot more cooling needs and heating needs and all those kinds of things. And as we're trying to transition to electricity for providing energy for climate purposes, we're kind of taking 1 step forward, 1 step backward here, where, we're trying to encourage that. And then at the same time, we're saying, let's not build the infrastructure we need.
We struggle with similar problems to this in my district, not with this specific issue, but with, things the neighborhoods need. I'll talk about like emergency access routes, ways in and ways out. Everybody agrees that we need those, we want those, but then you propose the actual location of the route where we're gonna do this, and all of a sudden, there's lots of opposition to it because it got specific, right? It went from being very general, we all want energy, we want clean energy. But, if that's gonna be sited next to our homes, that's not the case. I also think there's another thing that rubs me here is a bit of an environmental justice issue. I mean, there are areas across the rest of the city, including my own neighborhood, neighborhoods all over the city, that have high voltage transmission lines running overhead next to apartment buildings with hundreds, if not thousands of people inside of them, daycares, schools, you name it. There's substations in those same neighborhoods, and nobody says a word about that. We're not talking about undergrounding those. We're not talking about moving those. It's kind of unfair in a way. I get it. This is like our last unprotected, unobstructed view of the mountain here. But at the same time, nobody did anything about all these other times when we did this, or someone did this before my time, before this commission. So, that strikes me as just being fundamentally unfair to a lot of other areas of the city that don't bat an eye when we put more power lines, more substations. It just goes in, nobody notices. I'm not saying that makes it right, but I just think that there's some real conflicts here that we're grappling with, and we're left with 5 minutes to make these decisions when you all have been dealing with this for years. P&M's been studying this for 10 years, and we're giving ourselves 10 minutes to sort of think through it, but that's our job. I was part of that motion that Commissioner Benson made at the last meeting to study this and to look at the rate structure for it. I really appreciate P&M bringing forward sort of what those options were on, how this could be paid for, the actual undergrounding. I gotta tell you, it was less expensive than I thought it would be, but you also said it could be more. But nevertheless, this is a rhetorical question, but does everyone in the audience here and your neighbors that aren't here, do they want a $5,000 a year rate rider on your electric bill? I don't think that's a viable alternative. And I don't think we should ask the neighborhoods by UNM and West Side, East Side, all over the city to pay for that, because it doesn't really benefit them. It benefits people that live in this area that need electricity. We all do. And it benefits the view, the open space, and those are real benefits. All of those are. I'm not disputing that. But I just think that we're kind of in a corner here where there's not really a good solution. We either put ourselves, and all of you primarily, not my neighborhood, but these neighborhoods, in a very precarious situation with regards to electrical power and availability of that. Or we look at, potentially conflicting with that view shed and, some of those unobstructed views of the mountain. So I think that's why we're elected. That's why we're up here to do these jobs, is to make these kinds of tough decisions. This is one where, quite frankly, no matter how I vote, I'm probably not going to feel great about it. So with that, I'll yield the floor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I believe that we will be doing the right thing with the motion that's on the floor, and tend to vote for it. I was really struck by the fact that I didn't know this either, but that the size of this substation is 3 times the size of the other 2 in this area. And so that sort of makes me even more sure that this zone change and this special use request and it is not consistent with the North Albuquerque Sector Development Plan or the Bernalillo County Plan. And it is just not consistent with, as we have in the findings here in our staff report, it is not consistent with the health, safety, and general welfare of the residents of the county. So that's my statement. Thank you.
And just a point of clarification, Commissioner Benson, in terms of your motion to grant the appeal, that referred to both the amendment to the sector plan and the special use permit, I presume, is that correct?
The motion was to grant the appeal and deny the
Right.
plan amendment.
Right, on both.
On all, yes.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, if I might just sort of assist through this process, there are, as we have 7 cases on the agenda, we would need 7 separate motions. And then in the included memorandum to the board, which included the litany of options that the board has before them, including approval, denial, continuance, so on and so forth. The staff has prepared sets of findings for each of those outcomes, recommended findings that the board can incorporate in their decision, and the department would recommend doing so, with the understanding that the Board of County Commissioners can modify those however they see fit. And if it is the will of the commission to move towards denial, the department would facilitate the findings by displaying them on the projector so that you all can reference them, at least by number, for incorporation into your action.
So again, just to be, thank you, Mr. Ham, for that. Just to be clear, we're talking about a motion to deny the application and grant the appeals. Is that correct?
That's right.
That's correct.
Mr. Chair, and I just would refer everyone to look at page 7 of 16 in the handout so that we can follow along. But I would like Director Ham to project that for the benefit of the public so they can see what we're considering.
Thank you, Commissioners. And I would just like to make a comment as well in regards to, I will tell you, I conflicted over this. I read a lot of material over the last couple of days and previously. These important issues I don't take lightly. I heard things that sound very familiar to me, things that I have talked about in the past on this dais and before. And I think it's just something that is, as Commissioner Oliva said, there's really no good outcome in many respects, because even those that are much against the proposal understand the need for more power. I mean, that is given. There's no contrary evidence to that. There's a question of where. I understand that. But I think I will also support the motion. And it's on the basis that I think we talk about the rural nature of the community, and that resonated with me and the comments that were made today and what I read as well. And what I think a lot about on this day, so what I talk about is how we want our community to be. What do we want Albuquerque to look like? What do we want Bernalillo County to look like? And I always think about it in terms of we want it to be the best possible community possible, the best possible community that we can be, and not simply do the pragmatic and perhaps even in some cases practical approach of just getting things done. And I think that's something the county has talked a lot about. I think we're working on that with very different initiatives that we have had before the commission over the last few months, that the idea is to not just exist and to thrive, but to thrive we have to have input from the community. And with that input from the community, we really want to bring into fruition the vision that we have for our community. The vision that we have is, as somebody said, to recognize and appreciate the jewels in our community. I live in the South Valley, and I resonated with a lot with what you said about the beauty of our community. And I see the river every day as I cross, as I come in. That beauty that we have in our community of the West Mesa and the river and the mountains is something that we can't take for granted, although I have no doubt in my mind that there is a need here, and I'm fully confident that, P&M will explore all options to provide that. I have no doubt about that. But I do think this is part of making our community a beautiful community and something that we can be proud of and to promote that. And I think ultimately that is the goal of the Bernalillo County Commission. So I will be supporting the motion made by Commissioner Benson as well. So I would appreciate, Mr. Ham walking us through those findings in that regard.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, it appears that the board is moving towards the direction of a denial. We're going to now share with you all the set of recommended findings for denial. And when I say denial, it's denying the application, granting the appeals. And we have sets for both the special use permit portion of this request as well as the plan amendment portion of this request. So we will share those on the screen right now. As you can see on the left side of the screen, the SPR case is the plan amendment and the CSU is the special use permit. And if I could encourage the maker of the motion to make 7 separate motions, and we'll go through those one at a time so that we have each case on your agenda will have an action taken specific to it.
Thank you, Mr. Ham. Does each motion require a vote for all 7 motions?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Ham. Mr. Chair, for plan amendment appeal cases SPR 2025-0006 in the matter of COA 2026-004/SPR 2025-006, I do move to grant the appeals and deny the plan amendment subject to the 7 alternate findings for this denial.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand or say aye.
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 Passes 4-0.
Mr. Chair, in the matter of COA 2026-003/SPR 2025-006, I move to grant the appeals and deny the plan amendment subject to the 7 alternate findings for denial.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? If not, all those in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Yes.
Passes 4-0.
Mr. Chair, in the matter of COA 2026-006/SPR 2025-006, I move to grant the appeals and deny the plan amendment subject to the 7 alternate findings for denial.
Second.
Motion and second to approve. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye. 4-0. Passes.
Mr. Chair, for special use permit appeal cases, CSU 2025-009, in the matter of COA 2026-005/CSU 2025-009, I move to grant the appeals and deny the special use permit subject to the 7 alternate findings for denial.
Second.
Second again by Commissioner Blanca. Any other discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye. Passes unanimously 4-0.
Mr. Chair, in the matter of COA 2026-008/CSU 2025-009, I move to grant the appeals and deny the special use permit subject to the 7 alternate findings for denial.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye or raise your hand.
Aye. Mr. Chair, in the matter of COA 2026-007/CSU 2025-009, I move to grant the appeals and deny the special use permit, subject to the 7 alternate findings for denial.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
That one also passes unanimously as the others did as well.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, one more for plan amendment case CSU 2025-009. In the matter of SPR 2025-006, I do move to deny the plan amendment, subject to the 7 alternate findings for denial.
Second.
Motion second. Any discussion? Not all in favor, please say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Mr. Hammond, is there any additional items other to announce the next meeting of the Bernalillo County zoning?
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, nothing further from staff other than a thank you to the commission for your thoughtful deliberation, for the public that participated, and for the applicant for their work through this process. We appreciate it.
And thank you, Mr. Hammond. We would be remiss if we didn't I would be remiss if I didn't thank I appreciate your applause, but I would be remiss if I didn't thank our staff and the time that they put in, and Ms. Iverson and Ham, such as, this is not an easy thing. I know there are literally hundreds of hours that staff, dedicated staff, professional staff put into this process, and so I really appreciate all your effort, and again, thank you everybody for coming out to address this important matter. Our next zoning meeting will be Tuesday, June 9th, 2026 at 3 p.m. in the afternoon here in the chambers. Thank you all. We will adjourn for a few minutes before the next meeting, and I better gavel officially.